This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by
Next 1000.
Dave Ridley here, signing in for RidleyReport.com with yet another sad tale regarding the plots in Concord to take more of your money. If we raid nhliberty.org, click on the calendar, and take a look at January 29th, hearings scheduled for January 29th. Well, you'll see there's not all that much listed there, but I've been doing some checking of the raw data on generalcourt.org regarding the many bills that are coming up for hearing on that day, January 29th. This one, Senate Bill 353, looks like it could end up being some real red meat. An act relative to illegal aliens. According to the analysis, it requires state and local law enforcement agencies to enforce immigration laws to the extent authorized by federal law. Now, I know that may sound good to some, but let's just stop and think about the implications here. And the wording, quote, law enforcement agencies of this state and its political subdivisions shall enforce federal immigration laws to the extent authorized by federal law. Now, the way I read that is that it would, again, it requires you as a local law enforcer, a local law enforcement agency, if you are one, requires you to, quote, enforce federal immigration laws to the extent authorized by federal law. Now, what would happen if federal law were to change and become more draconian than something you folks might be comfortable with right now? What if federal law were to say what it said in 1942? Or what they at least acted like it said? What if federal law were to say that it's okay to set up concentration camps for illegals? What if federal law were to change to say concentration camps are authorized? Well, the way this bill reads, if it's authorized by federal law, you've got to do it. Again, quote, shall enforce federal immigration laws to the extent authorized by federal law. So the federal government could authorize any number of things in the future. Who knows what we're agreeing to or mandating on our local law enforcers with this bill. And if you think it can't happen, you think it won't happen, again, just Google Google American concentration camps and see what you find from reputable sources about what happened in 1942 to Japanese that lived in the United States. Oh, and by the way, they weren't Japanese. They were Americans of Japanese ancestry in many cases. But as always, there's really only one thing you need to know about a bill to know whether it's good or bad. And that is, will it raise or reduce expenditures? And this one, like so many others, is expected to increase expenditures. Not just at the state level, but at the county and local level as well. There's a reason why annual expenditures in the state are up 16-17% over the last year or so. The plurality of it is Governor Lynch's fault, but a lot of it is the fault of feel-good legislation like this. Pieces of legislation like this being passed in droves. Almost always increasing state expenditures. And where does that money come from? It comes from you. And worse, now it's going to start coming from your children. We're going to be passing a lot of this on as a legacy. Very sorry to see two of my favorite reps signing on for this nonsense. Rep Baldessaro from Londonderry and Renzullo from Hillsborough County. Why is it that hundreds of liberty lovers have moved and continue to move to New Hampshire? In part, it's because of the Free State Project's First 1,000 pledge. The success of that pledge gave this man an idea. Max Abramson of New Hampshire is starting what he calls the Next 1,000 Pledge, designed to get another 1,000 Free Staters into New Hampshire by 2011. To find out more, visit pledgebank.com/next1000.